Hey, this is Johnny.
And I'm Daniel.
We're in the band Nothing More, and you're listening and watching Linea Rock.
Welcome to Linea Rock for the first time, Nothing More with Johnny. Hi, Johnny.
Hey.
And welcome. Hi, Daniel. Welcome.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. This is the first time here in Italy, the first time here in our studios. So, can you talk about the beginning? I know that it's a long story, right? Many lineup changed, right?
Yes.
Many CD on independent label published.
Yep.
Okay, so there are many years. Can you talk about this?
Yeah, we met at a young age. I was in 7th grade, and I met Daniel and Mark separately, and I played with them each in different projects. And over time, we joined forces in high school. And long story short, we went through a few different singers, and I was the drummer at the time. I started on drums when I was young, and so we were basically reaching the end of high school, or the end of high school for me. Mark and Daniel were in college, and once I graduated high school, we jumped into an old 1970-something Vandura RV and started touring. And without a label, without anything, without really any money, just what we could scrape by with. And we did that for a few years, and with two different singers. And at the end of 3 years, we actually made burn marks in our shoulders with a knife to kind of signify the commitment we made to each other, because we were dedicating our lives to this. We were sacrificing everything, not going to college. And so we really wanted to do this with all of our heart. And at the end of 3 years, we parted ways with a singer. And we also had another guitar player who I was really good friends with that we parted with. And it was just us three, Daniel, Mark, and I left. That was the year that I started singing.
Yeah.
And we were on the lookout for a drummer. And we found Paul, about a year or two after that. And soon after, that was, in that time, we made this record that we're touring on now, the self-titled one. So.
Okay, and after 5 independent CD, is arrived the contract with 11/7 music label. How you enter in contact with this label? They is watching you play live in the States, or you had some friends?
Yeah, well, actually, we had honestly never even heard of the label, and they reached out to us. One of their scouts had gotten a copy of the album after we released it independently.
Yeah.
And
the preview album?
The self-titled, the album we're touring on now, we released on our own, and then they got a copy and contacted our manager and said that they wanted to have a showcase out in LA. So that was the first, really kind of no, it wasn't the first official label showcase, but it was cool because they had just discovered us out of nowhere. We didn't go to them. Our manager didn't solicit anything, so they just called us. And shortly after that, a bunch of other record labels, we got into kind of a bidding war between them and several others, and 11/7 they want us. They're very passionate and have been amazing to us. So we're very happy with them.
Nothing More is also the title of this last album, where you have recorded. Who is the producer of the album? And there are many songs, 17 songs. So some songs arrive from the preview album, or are completely new?
Well, so to answer your first question, I headed up the recording side and produced the record with my manager, Will. We co-produced and co-mixed it together. And basically, we moved into a house together as a band. And I had my room, which was the control room. I treated it acoustically. There was basically my bed and speakers and pedals and, my computer and everything set up. And then down the hall was Daniel's room, which we had all the speakers and the guitar cabinets. So we had like cables running down the hall.
How many weeks? 1 month?
Months, a few months. Yeah. We worked a while on this because we didn't have a lot of money, but we had time. So we used our time and leveraged that since we didn't have money. But we had Paul in the other room, and he had all this gear. And then you go downstairs, and there was a little a dining room that we turned into a rehearsal room. And then out in the garage, Daniel would be out there building our showpieces. He builds these big metal things that we put drums in, and contraptions that we use live. So we kind of had like a little factory that we'd built in our living space, and we were just working nonstop. And I did the production. We started writing the record, and when we compiled all the ideas that we had built leading up to that record, we had about 60 song ideas. So it was just a lot that had gone on in our life. So we had a lot of inspiration and a lot of things to source from. We had to narrow that down to, a regular record, which we thought would be 10 or 12 songs.
Yes.
When we got to about 20 to 17, we couldn't find it in ourselves to cut past that 17 because they just felt right to us. And we weren't on a label, so we were like, there's no reason to make this short. Everybody's making things shorter and shorter nowadays. It's like a soundbite culture where they want it quick and they want it shallow, and we're like wanted to go the other direction. We're like, let's come out with a longer record and just put what we want on it.
Okay. Tell about the writing process for this album. What is your songwriting process? And are the songs written individually, or you work like in a kip, in a group for writing the songs?
It's all it's a combination of individually and group. We usually have a lot of ideas individually that spark group ideas, and then we work together as a group, and then break apart and work individually again, and then come back together as a group, and kind of do that over and over.
And for compose a song, you start from a melody voice or by some guitar riffs or electronic basses?
All of the above.
All.
Yeah.
Every song is different. So
Yeah.
some songs
sometimes can start from idea from the lyrics, sometimes with a riff of the guitar, right?
Yes, and sometimes even from just a story from that we tell each other of something we went through, or a line that we heard in a movie, or anything that makes the hair come up on the back of our neck and inspire us and give us goosebumps, then we follow that and we just chase it down the trail.
When we were listening for the first time the album, we noticed that the sound is very original and different from other type of music. How would you describe your style, your music? Is based also on your personal influences for create your sound?
Is what on our personal influences? What did you say?
For create the sound of the Nothing More, you take inspiration from your influences by the past. I don't know if you listen before when I was young or now.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of different bands that influence our writing style and influence the sound of the music and how we construct the lyrics and all that. I think one reason that we ended up with something that does maybe sound unique is that throughout, like, all of us have very different influences or have some different influences and write different ways. And as the music goes into the band, it's kind of shaped by each person. So even if a song sounded like Metallica going in, that was the original inspiration, it would come out sounding completely different than that, just as we all put our own influences on it.
Yeah, I think a lot of bands typically have a central songwriter. I'm sure you've interviewed a bunch of bands, and there's usually one person who's kind of who generates most of the ideas, and then the band kind of helps, but they kind of do most of it. So with our band, even if one of us totally generated a lot of the ideas for one particular song, it always ends up going through all of our hands at such a deep level of reconstructing and changing things that I think that it renders a more original product, because it's not...
Yes, because for me, you have created a personal sound style, different by many other bands. It's not easy.
Yeah, and we're all very different people. Yeah. So we put our...
Together different influences. There are extreme, some of new metal, classic metal, jazz, funk. There are many different styles in your music.
Totally, yeah. I mean, we grew up listening to a lot of different things from, I know... half the band grew up on classics like Beatles and Led Zeppelin. I grew up on more. My dad listened to Rush growing up, so I had a progressive influence there. But Mark grew up learning all of Metallica's guitar riffs. That's how he learned how to play guitar. And as time went on, we got more and more into more modern bands and bands that were a little less well known, like Dredge and like Radiohead, all the way to Ben Folds to Imogen Heap to just a variety of things outside of the rock world, rock and metal world. Yeah.
Talking about the first single, this is the time ballad. Sorry, a strong song, a very suggestive video also. The real message that you want to transmit is that if you have faith in yourself, the happy ending is sure, is certain.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Never said it like that, but that's pretty much the essence of it is trust. And I like to give this kind of strange. It's kind of a dark analogy, but. You know, in the United States, there's a lot of TV shows that are growing in popularity that are like based around serial killers and like craziness. And I always thought to myself, if I woke up on a table and I didn't know where I was and someone was operating on me, again, this is very dark, but in a moment of not being fully awake, would I believe, even if I couldn't change the situation, that it was a surgeon or a serial killer? Which one would I choose? Which one do I buy into? And I think life is very much like that because there's so many situations that on the surface you could very easily buy into the idea that it's a thing that's there to destroy you and only negative and bad in your life. But we've found that in life so many times that we look back and what seemed like something that was breaking us was actually something that was refining us and building us and teaching us something. So it's really just trying to get everyone to buy into the idea of trust, trusting your experience, trusting what happens to you, and being open. And you find that it transmutes those experiences into something positive.
Yeah. We Are Not Machines is the name of the tour, right? But is a part of the lyric of the song Christ on Copyright. Right. Can you say what the track is? Can we say that the track is has a religious and political overtone? And what's the importance of not being machines?
Yeah, it definitely has some religious and political commentary throughout it. But basically, I think the importance is, as a band, those songs are great examples of this, but as a band, we don't have some kind of particular answer that we're preaching or trying to proselytize. What we are trying to do is push questions and basically preach the value of doubt. You know what I mean? Like, we believe that questioning and doubting and challenging things is the beginning of understanding. That's really where people begin to wake up and start having a mind of their own that can't be manipulated as easily by forces outside of them, or marketing forces, or political forces who want their vote, or religious forces who want their money. So when people, I think, value questioning rather than valuing answers, it shifts the tides a little bit. And that's really the core of what that song and the line "We Are Not Machines" are trying to put emphasis on, which is, you know, we're not just a bunch of programmable drones, which we do act like a lot of times as in society and as individuals. We just echo what everyone else around us is saying, or we echo what the media says, and we believe it wholeheartedly, even though we haven't really thought about it or really dug deep into why we think that that's true. We just believe it because everybody else is saying it. And so we're trying to get people to wake up and be like, why do you really believe what you believe? You know, why are you so passionately for this particular political party or this particular religious point of view? And I think that's the beginning of understanding.
Another question about another song called Jenny. Is a very intense and deep song with an emotional charge of anger and frustration, but also hope and a kind of love, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a difficult song to complete because as a band, we don't like to leave people in just a dark place. We like to meet them there because we've all been there and find either a way out of it or some kind of hope in it. And with that song, it was just very hard to find the hope in the situation. The song's about my sister. It's an ongoing battle. She has mental illness and drug addiction, which are kind of a very vicious cycle that they feed each other. And my mother died of cancer and really fought to stay alive to help my sister get through that time. And so the silver lining, or the powerful thing that I saw throughout it, as dark as it was that my mom fought against all odds and stayed living longer than the doctors ever had imagined, 2 years longer than they had predicted, because of her love for her daughter. And, you know, there was one little chick not at home with the mother hen, you know, and so I saw a love that I've never seen in any person or any situation in life except right there. So that was very powerful in all that darkness to see someone fight so hard for who they love.
The Facebook page of the band is very interesting. It's one of the most beautiful that we have seen. Full of images, drawings and messages with a very strong emotional impact, which permitted to the people to deeply meditate about the aspect of life. This post has for you one intensifier of the message that you want to transmit through your music, and or are your source of inspiration for the music of the band?
I mean, I think I hope I'm answering it right, but basically, you know, a lot of the imagery that you're talking about in those posts are a reflection of how we're inspired by things outside of music. You know, when we write the songs, we're inspired by literature and art and movies, and so since social media culture is such a visual culture, we have decided to try and use that to spread ideas and art outside of just music all the time. And it's kind of cool, I think, to, you know, there's bands like Tool, for example, who their guitar player did their music videos, and it brought this really interesting artistic thing to what they did, and it brought this depth that was so beyond just the music, and it made that band even more well-rounded and interesting from different levels. And so we're just trying to inspire people on every level that we can, and you know, on social media, that's one way that we can do it, is bring art culture to what we do.
And we definitely feel that inspiration is the most powerful thing we could give to somebody. You know, that was I don't know, it's an influence, and it's the one that always seems to lead to positivity and to the right thing, even if sometimes there's a negative outcome in the beginning. You know, why we're all here is because of inspiration. And, you know, like Johnny was saying, it's hard to tell people or to show people exactly what our inspiration is, but a lot of that, I don't know, I guess can kind of help them. You know, it's hard to, I'm kind of getting lost in my words here, but yeah, it's all about inspiration.
You are on tour by many times now, and which is the most funny and strange thing ever that happened during the long tour in the USA and also here in Europe, and how you can find the concentration and tranquility or peace during the long tour?
Man,
it's not easy.
No.
Yeah, gotta think for a second. We have so many different stories and things that have happened.
Yes, I know, because every day something happening.
Yeah. God, let's think. I want to tell this story because this is a classic that I'll never forget. Yes, when we first started touring, we, like I was saying earlier, we jumped into a 1976 RV that had not been running for many, many years, was just probably full of all kinds of bugs and creatures. It was just nasty. We had to renovate it, and Dan kind of rebuilt it and got it running. Anyway, long story short, probably shouldn't have been driving on the road, but that's all we had. So I remember I was on the phone and I was in the back part of the RV. And again, this thing was so old and we had a trailer attached to it carrying all of our gear. So it was putting a lot of weight on the back. And I don't think this RV was built to be for a touring band and pulling a trailer like we did. And I was talking on the phone to my girlfriend at the time and looking out the back window at the road just, you know, flying by. And while I'm talking on the phone, all of a sudden, the whole back part of the RV where I'm standing literally drops about 3 feet, and you hear this loud cracking sound like, and all I see right in front of me, like 2 feet, is the road flying by at 65 miles per hour. Just like, I literally almost fell through like the ground of the earth in an earthquake. Like, it just completely opened up. And I'm yelling to the friend, Dan, pull over, Dan, pull over. All our shit's going to fall out of the van. So anyway, we pulled over, and it was just a gaping hole in the back of our RV that anything could fall through. And anyway, there was a lot of those stories of it breaking. It caught on fire once, too, and totally burned the whole inside.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we've had a lot of crazy stuff. This tour, I'm trying to think of what the craziest thing is. We were in Berlin, or not Berlin, we were in Warsaw, and just crazy audience, like crazy kids. The first one with just nonstop crowd surfers. And it was funny every crowd surfer that'd make it onto stage, they'd like stand up and then have no idea what to do. You know, one guy like put his arm around Jolly and started rocking. It was like, it was just very awkward. I thought that was kind of funny. But I think every day, I don't know. Every day there's a new laugh and a new something to be happy about. We're sharing a bus right now with with the band Wilson, who's also on the tour, and they're the most hilarious group of guys ever. Just to watch interact, and it's crazy, like being thrown into a situation in another country where we have 5 new roommates. You know, that we've never met before, and we can't escape. So,
about the audience, you find a difference between the people that come to watch and see and listen you in USA and here in Europe?
Yeah, there's definitely some differences. You know, it's interesting. Like, we're a brand new band for so many people, which is crazy. You know, we've never been to Italy, and that's kind of, to me, that's kind of the telltale sign between the different countries, because everybody, when Hailstorm plays, everybody goes crazy pretty much. But when we play, for instance, like in Hamburg, I don't think anybody moved. It was weird. But then, you know, we'll go to another, you know, but then in Warsaw, nobody knew who we were either. And everyone was going crazy, you know. So it just varies place to place. You know, tonight I'm really excited about the show tonight, because there's just a huge line of kids out in front of the venue already, just, you know, waiting. Like, you can just tell that they're pumped and they're ready to hear some live music. So I think it's going to be a really good night tonight for sure.
Yeah. For a new band, how much is difficult to try to arrive at contract with a good, important label? Not enough to be a good band, but you have to get lucky also.
If I'm understanding correctly, I think, you know, someone told me once that to make it in the music industry, a lot of it was luck or chance. And while I realize that that's partially true, I also feel like it's not really true. It's kind of misleading, because to me, it's more about chances. It's like if you have dice in your hand, the chance that you're going to roll 2 5s together the first time you do it, yeah, the odds are pretty low. But if you keep doing it, at some point you will roll 2 5s. You know what I mean? And so I think the music industry is very similar. The only thing is every time you roll, you need to be getting better. And so we increased our chances by taking control and playing more and touring more and getting in front of more people and meeting more people. And by doing that, you kind of control your chances. So it's not just pure chance anymore. And I think what's hard is that some bands, including us in certain times, is if you're not progressing or getting better, then you really aren't, those rolling of the dice isn't going to do anything for you. But if you keep improving and you keep putting yourself out there, I think it's inevitable that you'll be successful. I don't think it's chance. You just have to you have to stay with it, and that's what it's really about. It's not that chance. It's people's die-hard ability to stick with it. That's the hard part.
The last question about the cover of the album. Can you tell us the meaning of the characters that appear under the name of the band in the cover? Because there are very, very many. It's not difficult. It's difficult to know what you are meaning.
Well, like other layers to the record, it's kind of a piece of many pieces that are a part of this concept record. And it's not a very obvious concept record. You know, some concept records are like, this one's about space, or this one's about whatever. This one's a little bit more subtle. And it's kind of all these different levels of reflecting this idea that we're trying to connect and overlap two different ways of thinking. Even our name, Nothing More, there's nothing and there's more. And if you look at Eastern philosophy, it's based on emptiness, nothingness, and emptying yourself. And Western philosophy has always been built on the idea of fulfillment and more and acquiring and attaining. And it's almost like two different ways of looking at what it is you're trying to get out of life and what the path is to get there. And so in the same way that our name reflects that, we wanted to reflect with mathematical symbols. We wanted to speak language because we basically have two ways of communicating. We have language, which is very subjective, and we have math, which is very objective and hard-edged and hard to misinterpret. So all those symbols that you see are math symbols that they use in equations, but we use them to use the words that they represent to speak language. So, for example, the part under our name, the first character, that E, is there exists, an element of truth that does not divide but unites. That's one little excerpt from it, for example. And if someone were to take it further and look up, we never tell the whole thing because we want to leave it kind of open-ended so people can try to figure it out themselves. But it's basically just the mantra of the band and kind of the concept going behind the record, which is our belief that there is an aspect of reality that we live in where while things appear very separate, like you're sitting over there and I'm sitting over here, when you start to really break things down and you find that these separations that we draw in our minds to say where I start and where I end are actually very arbitrary and very gray. Because, you know, if you cut off my arm, am I still me? If you replace one of my organs, am I still me? If my personality changes because I have a brain injury, am I still me? Or what about even the oxygen in the room? If we take that away, like I can't exist without that. So is that a part of me? And you follow that train of thought further out, and you realize that everything is connected to everything at some level, even if you can't feel it with your senses, it's true. And so we're trying to, through that kind of cryptic part of the record, it's talking about that.
About the future, about the tour, you stay now in Europe. Have you planned to play for some festival this summer, or finish to play the tour in Europe and start to writing the song for the next album?
Yeah, I mean, this tour ends, we have 4 more shows, including tonight, then we head back to the States. And we're going to be touring the rest of the year. When exactly we're coming back to Europe, we don't know right now. We might be back for the festivals during the summer. If not, we'll probably be doing our own thing, headlining in the fall. We're just kind of waiting to see on, if we get into the festivals. But all throughout that, though, yes, working on the new record as well. Just because we're on the road doesn't mean that progress there is going to stop. So, yeah, we don't know when the next one will be done, but we're excited to sink our teeth back into something and be creative again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Thank you, Daniel. See you, I hope, next time when you return for a new record or a new concert here in Italy. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks for having us. Bye.